And the first Republican presidential candidate to visit Israel after the October 7th attack is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who joins me now. Welcome, Governor. Thank you. You just got back from Israel. Let's talk about what you saw, what you learned there about this war, which is now in its 6th week and getting more horrific by the day.
Well, Andrea, it's not just the inhumanity that was visited upon the citizens of Israel by Hamas, which is clear. But what I really learned was the joy that they took in visiting that inhumanity on the Israeli people. I saw raw footage, 40 minutes of raw footage of the attacks themselves.
I watched that footage as well, and it's unbelievable, the savagery.
It is. And I, you know, two of the things that struck me was the young family, the father who brought his 2 young sons into the bomb shelter, fell on the grenade himself to save his children. Killed. His children come out covered in blood, and the 2 terrorists follow them back into the house while the children are sobbing, knowing their father is dead. And they go into the refrigerator and take Coke out of the refrigerator and drink it as if they're invited guests for a fall picnic.
And the 6-year-old was blinded by shrapnel.
Yes, couldn't see. And then the mother eventually came and had to see the body of her husband in that bomb shelter. And the call that was intercepted, a cell phone call from a Hamas terrorist, where he said to his mother, "Mom, your son killed 10 Jews with his bare hands. Your son's a hero." And the parents were cheering on the other end of the phone. There is no moral equivalence here, Andrea, between what Hamas did and Israel now defending itself in Gaza to try to eliminate that threat. I was at a kibbutz 600 yards away from the Gaza border. And I could tell you, how could you, as any responsible government official, tell those people they can go back to their homes with Hamas still as a viable military option?
Well, let me ask you about the fact that Israel is losing support around the world because of the horrific pictures from the bombing of refugee camps. The government, the White House, has been very supportive, but is saying that there is no justification for going inside a hospital and endangering civilians, that there are better ways to fight to get the terrorists out of the tunnels, which they now acknowledge is under that hospital. Children, ripped from, children born by cesarean because their mothers have died, and infants no longer on ventilators.
Well, if Hamas would stop using those hospitals and those civilians as human shields, then we wouldn't have this problem. The Israelis care more about the lives of those Palestinians than Hamas does. And the proof of that is the hundreds of thousands of text messages that have been sent in to Gaza, the leaflets that have been dropped, the advice that has been given for them to move away from the areas where the fighting is going to be. Andrew, we cannot permit Hamas to continue to operate Gaza, and their military capabilities needs to be wiped out. And secondly, if you don't believe that this is a united front between Iran, North Korea, and Russia, along with Hamas, I saw the weapons myself at a military installation, RPGs from North Korea, with North Korean markings on them, Iranian weapons, Russian AK-47s. This is a united effort to try to disrupt the free world.
Well, how do you justify then House Republicans stripping Israel out of the supplemental, taking Ukraine out of the supplemental, and then going to a continuing resolution, bare bones? How do you explain mostly House Republicans, not the senators, who are ignoring the threats as you described them?
First of all, I don't justify it. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And they are abandoning America's rightful role and responsibility in the world. Believe me, Russia, North Korea, and Iran are playing their role, and they're backing Hamas. And if we don't stand up for Israel, not only do we fail as a world leader, but we fail morally. And what I would ask those folks in the House who are not doing it is, where is your morality? These innocent citizens of Israel were murdered. I went into a kibbutz, Andrea, and the home of a 24-year-old couple who were gunned down in their own home. The blood-soaked couch and bed where they were murdered, still in the home. And I counted 140 bullet holes in the walls to kill 2 people. We have a moral obligation, Andrea, to be helping the Israelis and not to be questioning them and second-guessing them or playing domestic politics with this.
You're the only Republican candidate who's been to the war zone. You've seen it yourself. You need to get on the debate stage then. You've met the donor requirement. Are you going to meet the polling requirement?
I've met the polling. I've met the polling requirement already.
Well, the RNC hasn't approved the polls you cite.
Well, the RNC hasn't made any statement at all, and they don't until the end.
So you think you're going to be on the debate stage?
I will be on the debate stage in Alabama. I will be on the debate stage. Our polls meet their requirement. The polls that we've cited meet their date requirement and their sampling requirement. We are going to be there on that stage. And the fact is that it's wrong that no one else has gone. I mean, the fact is, if you want to be president of the United States, you want to be the commander-in-chief of our military, and you want to be able to have a meaningful role in trying to help bring peace to this region, you have to see it for yourself. I mean, Andrea, when I went to a hospital in Tel Aviv, where many of the victims are, I met a 23-year-old girl, dual Israeli-U.S. citizen, who was at that concert, went to a bomb shelter. 80 people in the bomb shelter, Andrea, 68 of the 80 people were murdered by Hamas terrorists. The only reason she was saved is because 4 dead bodies fell on top of her, and they shielded her from the bullets except for having gotten shot in the leg. I mean, you need to see this to understand the stakes.
Let me ask you about this Republican contest then. Donald Trump on Veterans Day gave a speech, a scripted speech, and then he posted it as well. So this was no accidental ad lib, referring to, getting rid of the vermin, using language that Hitler and Mussolini used. And then his press spokesman said, well, we're not talking about extinguishing, we're talking about eliminating or changing something without a difference. What kind of language is that for the frontrunner by leaps and bounds? He's the frontrunner.
Well, that's why I'm here, Andrea, and that's why I'm running against him. And as you know from watching the race closely, I am the only candidate running against Donald Trump. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis seem to be running against each other for second place. Good for them. But, when Nikki Haley stands on the stage on Wednesday night and says Donald Trump was the right president for the right time, when Ron DeSantis continues to defend Donald Trump, you cannot beat someone unless you run against them. And the only path to the Republican nomination for president is not around Donald Trump or next to Donald Trump. It is through Donald Trump. And the fact is, I'm the only person who's willing to do that. I'm the only person with the guts and the experience to be able to do it. And you and I both know why Donald Trump's not on that debate stage. It's because I am. And after I've qualified now for this debate, that means I'll be in every other debate from here forward. We're going to find each other at some point, and I'm going to hold him to account for the fact that he is not fit to be president of the United States. He is unfit by his own conduct. And come this spring, Andrea, he's going to be convicted by a jury here in Washington. And you know who's going to convict him? Mark Meadows, who now has a cooperation agreement with the federal government. He's going to sit 20 feet from Donald Trump in a courtroom right down the street from where we are. And he's going to say Donald Trump committed crimes on his watch and that he lied starting on election night knowingly about the results of the election and instructed others, including Mark Meadows, to commit crimes to try to overturn the election. We cannot have that kind of person as a nominee of either major party, and I'm the only one out there in the Republican Party in this race saying it.